their defense budgets to pay for these entitlement programs over a course of decades. And then we show up with Russia. What did Russia look at? He sees vulnerabilities. He sees American weak leadership. He doesn't see the Europeans standing up here, and he takes advantage of the situation and invades Ukraine. The reality is the Europeans have started to get the message. Why? Donald Trump, number one, Putin, number two. And they are beginning to rebuild these defenses. It will take some time to do it. Is it frustrating that the attitude when Trump asks for help and they stiff him here? You betcha it is. It's very frustrating to see something like that happen when we need help. It's not that we can't escort these ships down the Straits of Hormuz. Of course, we know how to do that. But the fact is, we also have ships conducting offensive operations against Iran. We have other ships conducting defensive operations to protect our bases and to protect Israel and the Arab states in the region. So we need some other people to help us do it. And that's all we were asking for. It's not going to start immediately. We've got to figure out how to do that, when to do it. It would take a week or two to get the ships in from Europe to join us. I actually, Sean, think they've been embarrassed a little bit by this. And from what I understand, they are talking to us about it. And I do think we eventually will see some of these countries come forward and do what they should have done right from the beginning, is step forward. And look, we're not going to send our own ships down there, Sean, if they're going to be sitting ducks to the Iranians. That's why we're not doing it right now. We want to remove that threat and bring the risk down to something that's quite manageable.
Yeah, well, General, it's sad to me because this benefits their countries way more than ours. And so much has changed. They have gone so far off course in so many years. General King, we really always appreciate you coming on. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interview.
That's insane. I can't see your screen from here anymore.
The price of gas in Europe is more than double the level seen before the conflict began. Well, let's now cross live and talk about this country's response to the war. Let's talk to Jose Manuel Alvarez Bueno, the Foreign Minister of Spain. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Minister. And can I ask you, first of all, for your reaction to the escalation that we've seen overnight, both with that Israeli attack on the Pars oil field, but also the retaliation and the subsequent rises in those energy prices?
We condemn, of course, all those attacks, both from Israel and from Iran, to those energy facilities. They are incredibly dangerous, both for human life, for the environment, and we are seeing already the tremendous impact on the prices of energy. This is damaging the well-being of our citizens. This is a war on which Europe was neither consulted nor informed, and we are seeing that we are being hit by the consequences. And therefore, as Spain did since the very first day of this unilateral action, we call for de-escalation, we call for diplomacy, and we call for going back to the negotiating table.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that you've just said there Europe hasn't been involved in this war, hasn't known about how it started. But are you surprised that President Trump has said on Truth Social that he knew nothing about the Israeli strike on those oil fields, given that the Israelis and the Americans have gone into this war together? Did that surprise you, reading that?
I understand that they have different objectives right now in the war, Israel and the United States, but what's important is that those that initiated this war realizes that it's out of control, that we don't see very clear how long this can take, what are the objectives of this war, and it's putting in danger the lives of millions of people, that it has destabilized completely the Middle East. We see places like Lebanon 1 million displaced people. It's a real shame for humanity, and that the impact for the well-being of everyone on Earth is being put in danger, certainly for the well-being of the Spaniards and European citizens. And therefore, there is no military solution for the current situation. De-escalation, once again, going back to the negotiating table, that's the only solution. At the end, security never comes only through military force.
There's a hot war happening in Europe right now in Ukraine. President Trump is clearly angry with Europe for not helping along the Strait of Hormuz. How do you keep a president on side insofar as the war in Ukraine is concerned if you don't help him in the Middle East when he needs it?
We were together since the very beginning with the United States in front of the Russian aggression and the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And European Union is bearing right now most of the cost, both financially and delivering weapons to help the democracy and the freedom of Ukraine. So it was a common decision by Europe and the United States to support freedom, democracy, international law, reject wars of aggression, and the reward of the aggressor in the case of Ukraine. When it comes to Iran and the Middle East, we didn't know anything about it. Everyone in Europe, all the governments in Europe, we started to know about this war when we woke up and we start to see the images in our screens of TV.
What does that tell you about your relationship with the US, that you didn't know anything?
Well, the American administration is being very clear about the transatlantic relation and is telling us that we have to take more burden sharing of our own security. And I think it's the time for Europe to make a leap forward on its sovereignty, its economic and trade sovereignty, but also its sovereignty in security. That's why Spain is calling for better integrate the industries of defense of Europe and to create a European army, not to replace the national armies, but to create a rapid response force to guarantee our own deterrence. Europe must not be a power to sit at the table of the powerful countries to be a new aggressive power, but to balance, to be a voice of reason, a voice that defends international law, negotiation, diplomacy, but also to tell those that think that war is another way of carrying out its objective in foreign policy, that we have our own deterrence to guarantee that Europe remains a land of peace.
You talk about international law, but you've said in the past that those strikes on Iran violate international law. Are you accusing of the US of acting illegally? And if so, what does that mean for international law? What does international law mean anymore? Many people are asking themselves today.
I think everyone in the world agrees that the unilateral action taken on Iran was a breach of international law. It doesn't fall into the United Nations Charter and principle. But we are still a very vast majority of countries and people around the world that believe in international law, that believes in the principles of the United Nations Charter, because the option to the law, to international law, is the pure use of force. The option to a world order based on predictable rules is the law of the jungle, the strength, only the use of force. And therefore, the option to the world order is the world disorder. And if we start to put disorder everywhere, at the end, we will get to chaos. We are seeing that already today in the Middle East being destabilized, in the human catastrophe that we are seeing everywhere, very clear in Lebanon. We are seeing it with the soaring prices in energy. That's why international law remains the best way to have virtuous relations with all the countries in the planet.
EU
Control. Hard to maintain. Easy to lose.
EU leaders are meeting to discuss the conflict today in Brussels. What are they going to be saying?
I think everyone in Europe is clear and very concerned with this war that is not a European war and with the soaring prices of energy. On Monday, we had a Foreign Affairs Council, and it was very clear that we were calling for de-escalation, that Europe doesn't want to get involved in this war, that we know very little, we don't know the objectives, we don't see also a deadline to it. And we really want negotiations and de-escalations to be leading the path in the Middle East.
Spain has been one of the countries to speak out the most strongly against what the US and Israel are doing in Iran. Do you sometimes wish that other countries like the UK came out also as strongly as you have?
We were the first. We were very clear. We have a coherent foreign policy that says the same thing for the same objectives and for the same principles in Ukraine or in the Middle East or in Greenland. It's to back international law, is to back diplomacy, negotiation, United Nations Charter. And I see that more and more countries start to get into Spain's position. And we are very clear on the respect of international law and also very clear in how the consequences of this war will have an impact in the well-being of all our citizens in Europe.
Do you feel that...
Hello, my name is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and we are live streaming on Rumble and YouTube. We're also live streaming via X Spaces. Thank you for joining. You can also watch either version of the live stream with the large screen or with the telemetry of the market on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Please help support the work that I do by getting the great products that I offer. You can get structural nano silver soaps. I have them in stock. You can get peppermint and also in lemongrass. These soaps will help with the health of your skin and neutralize because they're made from structural nano silver. I also have magnesium and zinc. Magnesium and zinc helps to boost up your immune system and helps with your brain function. Super important. You should be taking it every day. Also, Clarity Factor, very powerful neurostat. Since we're talking about brain function, taking magnesium and Clarity Factor is a great stack to help with your brain function. What Clarity Factor does is it gets rid of that brain fog, allows you to concentrate on tasks, and over time what is happening is it's improving your neuroplasticity. It's improving the dendritic connections between your neurons. The more dendritic connections you have, the faster you think, the better memory you have. Also, with proper brain function, you're actually going to sleep better. So please go to my store and get the Clarity Factor. Another great supplement that I have is the probiotics. You can get it in powdered form or veggie cap form. With a good probiotic, you're going to improve your brain function. You're also going to improve your immune system at your gut level. You're going to be able to absorb your nutrients better. You're also going to improve your skin. A lot of people don't know that. So please go to my store and get the probiotics. Now, in terms of cardiovascular health, that's one of the biggest diseases in the United States is cardiovascular disease. There's ways to mitigate it. Proper diet and exercise, but also proper supplementation. Taking omega-3 will help to bring down inflammation and control your lipid profile. And when you do that, you're reducing plaque formation. Super important. A lot of people don't realize that cardiovascular disease in the United States starts at around age 15. 15, all right? It's asymptomatic, but it's there. 100%, all right? So it behooves you to pay attention to me. Good night formula. Good night formula is very important to get a good rest, to detoxify your central nervous system, to be able to consolidate memory, and to be well rested. When you have good sleep regularly, you slow down the aging process. Now, Good Night Formula has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower for you to get into 3 cycles to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. Most people aren't getting that many cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep, and that's the reason why you're losing your mind. Olive leaf extract brings down inflammation and also controls your lipid profile, helps to bring down the LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. It's a dual purpose product. It's going to help to boost up your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Are you noticing that there's a theme here? It's really important to support your cardiovascular health. Now, lignans brings down inflammation. It soaks up free radicals. It helps your immune system and your endocrine system, but also your cardiovascular system. And when you soak up free radicals and keep inflammation down at the brain level, you're improving the health of your neurons. If your neurons are constantly in an inflamed state or have lots of stress because of free radicals, they start not functioning properly. The myelin sheath starts to erode. The mitochondria in the neuron starts to degrade. Your neurotransmitters aren't being produced properly. You have misfolded proteins that start to accumulate, and voila, you start getting amyloidosis. So it's really important to take lignans to support your brain health. Ashwagandha root controls cortisol levels and blood glucose levels. This helps with your cardiovascular health. Starting to notice a theme here? Okay, with that, those are some great products that I have. Make sure you use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. I want you to get healthy, all right? A lot of people have been affected by what we went through in 2020 and beyond. And if you pay attention to me, you can mitigate the problems. Not just that, if you do this regularly, you're gonna slow down the aging process. You're gonna have more vitality. Do you wanna have vitality in your geriatric years or not? Because if you don't have vitality in your geriatric years, your healthcare costs are gonna go up, your mobility will go down, and your just overall life will diminish. So it behooves you to go to my store and take the supplements that I take on a regular basis to slow down the aging process. Well, thank you for joining. Now let's talk about where the markets are right now. So New York session has already opened up. The big news last night was, Israel yesterday hit Iran's natural gas field. Well, Iran gets all pissed off and ends up hitting Qatar. Well, Trump last night said that if Iran hits Qatar one more time, that he's going to literally blow up all of the biggest natural gas oil field in the world. All right, so this is escalating. So energy started spiking last night. Now, where are we at right now? The S&P 500 is trading at 6,591. Now, why is this important? Now, it is trading a little bit higher than the open. The open was at 6,557. The open broke the support level. Now, people have been paying attention to me. I've been saying that the S&P 500 support level is 6,600. There's another very strong support level of 6,450. It broke the 6,600 support level. If it closes today at 4 o'clock below 6,600, the S&P 500 has a higher probability of going to 6,450. All right, now that's heavily predicated on the events that are happening in the Middle East. But things don't seem to be de-escalating, things seem to be escalating. So now, don't bet against America, don't hide. If you have cash on hand, slowly buy into your equities and you will get a better dollar cost averaging. Now, many people that are in the market are through some sort of 401k contribution plan. So just maintain that. Don't get scared. Just buy in. Everything is going to be okay in the long run. I still have a target for the S&P 500 at 7,400 to 7,800 by year end. So if that holds true, you'll get a good return on your new deployed capital. So you just, just stick with it. Now, VIX is trading at 25.72, so it's elevated. I've been saying that I would not be surprised to see a VIX of 45. If you see a VIX of 45, that's when you're probably going to see an equity market at the 6,450 range. Okay, now, Euro is trading at 115, so the dollar is stable. Japanese yen is trading at 158.07. Last night it was trading around 160. So in relative terms, actually the Japanese yen from last night is actually trading a little bit stronger, but that's because of the jawboning from the BOJ, the Bank of Japan. Bitcoin is trading at 69,745, and natural gas is trading at 3.239. Now, with the market open, natural gas has been trading up, okay, for the natural gas futures. Now, for oil, right now it's trading at 95.96 for WTI. There's a gigantic spread between WTI and Brent. Now, the Brent price currently is trading at 105. You typically have about a $4 spread between WTI and Brent. Well, you have almost a $9 spread, $8 to $9 spread. That's a little bit too high. So the question is will WTI go up to meet Brent crude, or will Brent crude come down closer to WTI and have that $4 spread? There's about 50% of the trading market is saying one way or the other. So I don't think there is really a consensus here. Now, what is interesting is that many times throughout the last 4 trading sessions, Brent and WTI were almost tied together. There was very little spread, maybe less than 50 cents to $1 spread. Now, the cash market, that's the cash market. The actual delivery market, it's actually higher. People are paying more for Brent, like closer to like 125, 150 for delivery because of this crisis that's happening. So there is a disconnect between the actual delivery price, what people are paying at the terminal to get the Brent crude, versus the cash trading, because in the futures market, most of the futures market is not delivered. It's just settled through cash. So it's through trading or through hedging. And the ones that are picking up the oil, those are the real energy companies that need that oil to refine. So they're buying it, all right? So they're taking but most of the trading is not delivered. It's cash settled. So there's a disconnect between cash settled and actual receiving and delivering the physical product. So there's that adds to another dynamic that most people have not seen in trading. A lot of things are kind of unprecedented or very, very rare to see that's happening. So the question is Brent going to go up closer to the delivery price? Well, if that's the case, then most likely the global markets would also bring up WTI. All right, so that's one way of looking at it. Another way is that the delivery price actually goes down and Brent's spread gets closer to where WTI is. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's hard to see exactly what is going to happen. All right, with that, UCO is trading at 42.71. That's if you want a long oil. And if you want a short oil, these are leveraged ETFs, 3 times leverage. to short oil leverage 3 times. The inverse for UCO is SCO. That's trading at 7.95. Now, the question is, if things get stable with the Hormuz and oil refineries and upstream production doesn't get bombed again, then most likely oil is going to start to go down. But if the Strait of Hormuz isn't showing any signs of opening up by the end of the month, I think oil is going to continue to go up. So, you know, that inflection point of where oil is going to go is probably by the end of the month. Now we're at the 19th, all right? So we have, you know, about a week and a half left to find out. It's not easy to trade. It's absolutely not. If you want to do proper risk management, trading this volatile energy sector in natural gas and oil is difficult. It's not. It's very difficult, especially if you're doing a hedge strategy. Okay, with that, let's listen in to some other news here. Let's take the perspective of CNN's take on Trump criticizes Israel over Iran gas site attack.
True green pros are like PGA Tour caddies. They do the heavy lifting.
Nice lawn, Ben.
I still get.
And a rare rebuke of Israel from the US president. Donald Trump says he knew nothing about Israeli attacks on Iran's South Pars gas field, the largest in the world. The president posted on social media, no more attack will be made by Israel on the area unless Tehran retaliates against Qatar, which of course shares the gas field with Iran. Oil and gas facilities came under attack from Iran on Wednesday, including sites in Qatar, UAE, and Kuwait. Saudi Arabia says it intercepted 4 missiles over Riyadh as foreign ministers from the region met in the capital. CNN's Oren Lieberman joining us now from Jerusalem. And Oren, I want to learn more, if we can, about what happened with the Israeli attack on the Iranian part of the South Pars gas field. What do we know? What do we understand? We've certainly heard from the US president. Anything from the Israeli side?
Becky, before we saw President Donald Trump's response, we had heard from 2 Israeli officials that the attack was coordinated with the United States. And that, of course, is no surprise. Since the very first opening strikes nearly 3 weeks ago now, Israel and the U.S. have been coordinated on nearly every aspect of this. And that's not only a testament to the relationship between the U.S. and Israel at the political and military levels, it's also simply necessary to carry out these attacks with so many moving parts in the air and in the sea all at once. So Israeli officials say the attack on the South Pars gas field was coordinated with the U.S. and it was intentionally targeted at gas and electricity infrastructure, not at oil infrastructure, to insulate the attacks and the price of fuel in the United States from Israel's ongoing attacks. Of course, that didn't work when Iran lashed out and attacked gas and oil infrastructure around the region. But everything we have heard from the Israelis, and we heard it again from a foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last night on Jake Tapper's show, is that all of this has been coordinated with the U.S. We've heard that from the U.S. side as well, both political and military. So, Becky, at this point, I think it's very difficult to believe Trump's claim that the U.S. and he knew nothing about the attack on the South Pars gas field because of the coordination we have seen to this very point. The idea that 3 weeks into a war that Israel wants to continue, that Israel would just simply go rogue and carry out attacks that are not coordinated with the U.S. is incredibly hard to believe right now.
What else do we know about the long list of targets that we understand Israel has at this point? They were, it seems, targeted at individuals and groups inside of Iran. I'm just wondering whether this long list includes other installations outside of Tehran and the sort of, the neighborhoods.
That answer is almost certainly. They're not going to give us a target list of what's remaining just yet, but we have seen them expand where they are striking. Yesterday, they acknowledged striking on Iran's northern border. Their first strikes, they say, in northern Iran. Israeli officials tell us they hit Iranian naval assets in the Caspian Sea, which is, again, the first time we've seen that since the war. There are also almost certainly more targeted killings that Israel is planning to carry out, including against Mustafa Khamenei and others. So that list certainly has more targets on it, Becky, as the war continues.
So what do you make of this apparent split between the US and Israel, with President Trump in a rare rebuke of Israel saying the US knew nothing about the strike on a key Iranian gas field after Iranian state media blamed both the US and Israel, and President Trump calling on Israel to end all strikes on energy targets?
My thinking about that is that President Trump has made a political analysis, and that is that the greatest vulnerability we in the United States, and especially the world, as your previous commentators have made mention, is vulnerability in the energy sector. So that particular political pressure, both domestic and foreign, is felt by President Trump. And what he saw was an attack, perhaps, we don't know this for certain, but certainly initiated by Israel. Whether or not Israel had any previous approval, or at least giving alerts to the United States, doubtful, nobody knows. But that hit energy. And if there is anything that President Trump does not want to happen, that is a political downslide as a result of an uproar, both in the United States and around the world, about the desperate circumstances that are resulting from the, quite frankly, the embargo of fossil fuels, natural gas, petroleum, bottled up down there at the Straits of Hormuz.
Could this signal the US stepping back a little bit here?
I am an optimistic person, so perhaps. Again, I'm not one of these who have, optimism hasn't pushed me to the point in which I would embrace the expectation that this war will end in another week to 2 weeks. And that's because we use an expression in the military, the enemy has a vote. And what that means, quite simply, is we can have all the best plans in the world. We can establish our objectives, limited or broader, but we are in a conflict with a regime that has a long history grounded in religious fanaticism. It is not so simple to encourage the Iranian leadership to abandon what, from its perspective, is an existential conflict. Meaning, Iran, from the date of its formation in 1979, has dedicated itself to self-preservation and directly, and has expressed very clearly, destruction of Israel and the implementation or imposition of huge pain on the United States. I don't see the Iranians necessarily backing down, regardless of what President Trump has done vis-a-vis Israel and the bombing of the South Paws oil fields.
So what about boots on the ground? A US military ship with almost 2,500 military personnel on board is heading to the region, and according to Reuters, the Trump administration is considering sending thousands more. Now, we don't know exactly what they'll be doing, but there is talk of them getting troops to extract Iran's enriched uranium, or possibly sending them to Card Island. How risky would these ground operations be?
First way to answer that question is to incorporate what you have described as two objectives of U.S. land forces. One is securing the uranium that is buried across Iran, locations not necessarily well known. That is a very difficult task because you're putting American soldiers in harm's way deep inside the country, and that becomes a real fight on the ground. The second use of American soldiers, at least from my perspective, is to establish some sort of enclave around the Straits of Hormuz. That is the area of vulnerability. That particular geographic location and the utilization of that location by the Iranians has caused what we see of the great pain now suffered around the world. So you get ground troops and you establish a beachhead around the Straits of Hormuz for the purpose of, one, locating additional ground to ship weapons, as well as Iranian forces, naval assets that constitute the threat to shipping. So there are two, as you've recited, two potential locations for the imposition of U.S. forces, both extremely dangerous. We don't know what will happen.
Right. Retired Major General Mark McCarley, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
And you can see that this uncertainty is starting to build up in the financial markets, in equities, and also in oil. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin C and magnesium. This helps with your skin, boosts up your immune system, and helps with your brain function. Resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression, helps to boost up the health of your mitochondria. It soaks up free radicals. It also helps the basal layer of your skin. This, by taking this regularly, you will slow down the aging process. This also helps to get rid of senescent cells. Senescent cells are cells that stop dividing. They just stay there and collect garbage. That's not good for your tissues. Digestive enzyme complex, really important to take if you're 40 years of age or older. Why? Your pancreas doesn't work as well, no matter how healthy you are, period. Full stop. Get the digestive enzyme complex. It'll help to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids and reduce the load on your pancreas. I have a new product on my store. It's called Super Strong Relief. Super Strong Relief will help to reduce or eliminate tension headaches. You apply it on your temples or your forehead or even your neck and shoulder muscles. Just apply it topically. If you have joint pain because of arthritis or some sort of sports injury, apply it on the joint. This will also help with pulled muscles or soreness after a workout. It works within 60 to 90 seconds. Works really fast. So for temporary relief, go to my store, get the Super Strong Relief. Now, in terms of lozenges and drops, if you get that throat irritation during the allergy season or the cold season, take the drops or lozenges right away. It's made from structural enamel silver. It'll help to neutralize. It's really important. You can get it in blueberry, in cherry flavor, and also in honey and lemon for the drops. And for the lozenges, which are larger, you can get it in manuka honey and also in orange splash with vitamin C. Very high quality. They're made from structural enamel silver. Myotrol, really important if you're 40 years of age or older, to help to build muscle and maintain muscle. This helps to reduce atrophy. When you get to a certain age, you start losing muscle mass. And part of anti-aging is to build up muscle mass. So Myotrol is going to help to slow down the aging processes. There's polyphenols, lignans, and flavonoids to help with the gene expression to build muscle and to maintain muscle. Do some resistance training and take the Myotrol. Vitamin B complex. Again, if you're 40 years of age or older, your metabolism starts to slow down. And this is the reason why people get fat. Well, eat properly, do some exercise, but also take the proper supplementation to help speed up your metabolism. Vitamin B complex helps to do that. Vitamin B complex is the first 4 B vitamins, helps with the electron transport chain in your mitochondria. So you're building up more ATP, and that's a major energy source. When you get older, your ATP goes down. Why? Because your mitochondria is weak. It's weakening. They're getting diseased. Well, if you have healthier mitochondria, you produce more ATP, more energy. And this is part of one of the pillars to slow down the aging process. So vitamin B complex revs up that cellular metabolism, and your tissues will perform better. And vitamin B complex, because of vitamin B12, helps to protect your neurons. Super important. Vitamin D3, gene expression cofactor, so your cells perform properly. But it also helps to absorb calcium, and if you do resistance training, it will help to deposit bone matrix. That's super important because denser bone, when you get older, is good. A lot of people have brittle bones. They fall, they break their hip, and guess what? They're dead in 2 weeks. You don't want that. So vitamin D3 also gets rid of cells that are infected. It helps the cell to go into apoptosis. Super important to take every day, but especially during the winter season. And lastly, the structural nanosilver gels. You can get it in the tube form or the quick dispenser form. You can apply it on a wound. It'll help to heal the wound quicker. You can apply it on your skin daily to improve the health of your skin. And if you're not feeling well, or someone around you is not feeling well during the cold season, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your ears, around your mouth. Lightly coat your nostrils. It stays active for 5.5 hours. It neutralizes. Why? Because it's made from structural nanosilver. Very simple. All right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the products, help support the channel, share the links, and hopefully, if you've been paying attention to me on these markets, you don't panic. All right, right now the S&P 500 is trading at 6,577. Oil is trading at 96.85. All right, this is Fox News. Trump issues bold response after Israel targets Iranian gas field near Qatar.
All right, in less than an hour, the Pentagon is holding a news conference to bring us up to date on the latest on Operation Ep44. CENTCOM is releasing new video from the mission.
It comes as Iran retaliates after Israeli forces struck an Iranian gas field near Qatar.
And our chief foreign correspondent, Trey Yinks, joins us now from Tel Aviv with the latest on the ground there. Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. A lot of developments on the energy front overnight after Israeli forces struck the South Pars gas field in southern Iran. This was a strike that, according to Israeli officials, was coordinated with the United States. But you can see here the aftermath of those strikes, black smoke rising from the horizon there near to the Strait of Hormuz. In response, the Iranians launched ballistic missiles toward the Ras Laffan facility in Qatar. This is the world's largest producer of liquefied natural gas. And Qatari officials released a statement just about 9 hours ago saying the civil defense has fully contained 2 out of the 3 fires in the Ras Laffan industrial area, with no injuries reported. Cooling and securing operations at the sites are ongoing, while the explosives group of the Internal Security Force is carrying out its tasks in handling any hazardous elements. Now, President Trump overnight took to Truth Social to say, in part, quote, Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. And so, again, a little bit of disconnect between the Americans and the Israelis as to what led to these initial strikes that caused the Iranian retaliation against energy infrastructure. The Iranians are still launching attacks against Gulf countries and U.S. ally Israel. You can see overnight there were a number of cluster munitions fired toward this country. 7 separate barrages since midnight have triggered air raid sirens across Israel. In the West Bank, 3 Palestinian women were killed. They were in a salon at the time when part of an Iranian ballistic missile slammed into this area. Another person was killed in central Israel. We know a foreign worker. Now, a spokesperson for the Israeli military, Brigadier General Ep44, spoke about the ongoing efforts to shoot down this incoming fire.
We have air defense systems. I can already say they are among the best in the world. This is proven. Unfortunately, the defense is not airtight. We use our systems to intercept these missiles. These cluster missiles are a war crime if this terrorist regime targets them at population centers. There is no difference from a regular missile except for its dispersion.
We do know that as the Israelis are coming under more fire, some of these missiles are actually being intercepted over the city of Jerusalem. Shrapnel rained down earlier this week near to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Israeli police say they have closed all of the holy sites in Jerusalem as this war continues, and over concern that the ballistic missile fire will continue to target the population here. Guys?
Trey, can you tell us why the Israelis, every target There's a purpose behind that. So what is their stated purpose for targeting those facilities, those gas facilities?
The short answer is we can't really get into the mindset of the Israelis or the Americans when it comes to specific targets that are hit when it relates to energy infrastructure. And throughout the day, you're going to hear a lot of back and forth between American and Israeli officials as to who ordered this strike and who was actually looped in. What we do know is the South Pars gas field accounts for 10% of the world's natural gas reserve. And this is significant because when a gas field is struck, there is a ripple effect across the global energy economy. And when we look at this particular gas field, it is actually connected. It's shared. It's split in half. Qatar runs half of it, and the Iranians run the other half. And that was why you heard yesterday Qatari officials speaking out over concern about a rapid escalation ladder across the region, because the Iranians are now not just responding against Qatar's energy infrastructure, but they're also targeting Kuwait. They're targeting the UAE and Bahrain. And the concern for these Gulf countries is that if they come under more attack, they will have to keep some of these facilities closed, and it will affect global energy prices. Now, we should note this is also connected to the Strait of Hormuz and concern that the Iranians will continue to try and fire on vessels there. There are a variety of options for the Trump administration to secure the strait, but this is, again, escalating in the region because the Iranians are so unpredictable in what they're willing to target. We also heard Gulf countries today meeting and saying the Iranians must stop their fire, and they're actually considering offensive action against the Iranian regime.
All right, so Trey, when we woke up this morning and we're learning about the South Pars gas field, we did our research and we're really diving into why this is so significant for the rest of the world. So Israel strikes the South Par gas field, and that's located in Iran, but they also share a part of that with Qatar. So then Iran fights back and they attack this major energy facility, or several of them, in the Gulf neighboring states. It caused higher gas prices. It caused President Trump to write this on Truth Social: no more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before.
Now, let me just interject. All right. If Iran hits Qatar and decimates or really destroys major parts of the LNG facility, and Trump does his countermeasure and blows up the largest natural gas field in the world. You don't believe in climate change now? There will definitely be climate change after. I mean, the amount of carbon and natural gas fuming into the atmosphere is going to be catastrophic. All right. So that's one issue. All right. But in terms of making money, LNG producers and ports that are from the United States are going to benefit from this. All right. The United States exports a lot of LNG. All right. So these ports will be servicing, these LNG companies are going to be servicing the areas that we're buying Middle Eastern LNG. Now that's Asia, right? So we're going to be able to benefit from this in the long term. Short term, when this actually happens, oil is going to skyrocket. Natural gas is going to skyrocket, right? And natural gas is trading at 3.2. I would not be surprised it would be trading at 5. All right, if that happened. Now, it's all about probabilities. You know, this is like quantum physics. We're literally in quantum physics with Schrodinger's cat. All right, one reality could happen and another reality could happen, and it's based on probabilities. And that probability function doesn't collapse until a news event happens. But when you're trading based on probabilities and of this wave function. All right. So the probability of them escalating this to the point where they're going to destroy each other's natural gas production in LNG production is low, all right? Maybe 25, 30%. It's elevated compared to, let's say, 4 days ago, but the chances of it happening, I would say, is low. But if it does, energy producers in the United States for LNG, especially if they're exporters, right? Because there's LNG importers and there's exporters, right? So, but if there are companies in the the companies that will benefit from exporting LNG and the actual terminals, the port terminals, those companies, they will benefit from this. So I don't know what the names are. I'd have to look them up. You can easily just use Grok to find them out. But pay attention. If you really want to get into the details of this, there is a potential of some massive gains on LNG companies in the United States benefiting from what's going to be happening here. I'm not doing that. I play more of the underlying market, futures market of oil and natural gas, all right, not the actual company, all right? But there is a potentiality of getting some serious gain here if this event does happen. It's about 30% chance right now, but something could happen in the news that elevates the risks. Now, right now, it looks like the Qatari Prime Minister is speaking. So maybe let me finish this clip with Fox News and then we'll go to Al Jazeera. Hopefully we can get the comments from the Qatari Prime Minister.
Just natural gas reserve, Iran's biggest source of domestic energy supply, Trey, which means that's how they heat their homes, that's where they get their electricity, and the entire gas field contains an estimated 1,800 trillion cubic feet of usable gas, which is enough to supply the world's needs for 13 years. So if we came to a point where we had to blow up this entire thing, what would that mean for the rest of the world?
Higher energy.
It would mean decades of efforts to try and recover this gas field to use it again.
Yep.
We're looking again at a very serious escalation ladder in the Middle East, and we have to view the battlefield as it is. The reality is the United States and Israel are decimating the Iranian regime. They've taken out much of its navy. They are going after these ballistic missile launching positions. They have systematically killed off Iranian leaders. But Iran still poses a threat to the Middle East. It still poses a threat to Gulf countries. And they still have missiles, drones, cruise missiles, and mines in their arsenal that can be used. And again, we've talked with Israeli officials who say they expect this to continue for at least a few more weeks, if not more. And so there are very serious decisions that will have to be made by President Trump, the U.S. administration, and the Israelis as to what types of targets they are going to hit and what the effect of those targetings will be on the entire world, the energy economy, and the reality for the Iranians, which is that they are a country that we know is incredibly unpredictable. They are willing oftentimes to fire on residential and civilian areas. They are willing to target energy infrastructure in the Gulf. And really nothing is off limits for the Iranian regime. And so that is the enemy that the United States is facing at this moment, an unpredictable enemy that, again, is willing to create chaos in the region.
All right, Trey, thanks so much. Attacking energy, there's an upside and a
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver toothpaste. This has no fluoride in it. This will help to whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, bring down inflammation at the gum line, improve your gum line, neutralize, and with a good oral hygiene, you're helping your cardiovascular health and your valvular health. It's a very high quality toothpaste. It has structural nano silver, and it will neutralize. That's super important with the cold season, but you should be using this every day, right? It's the best toothpaste that you can get. And lastly, Max 35, Max 14, or Cleanse will help to boost up your immune system. Take a teaspoon a day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds, swallow it. This will help to improve your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, maintain a mucosal barrier, and help the health of your epithelial cells in your oral pharynx. Super important to boost up your immune system. And again, it neutralizes. That's the reason why you need to take it every day, but especially during the cold season. And if you're not feeling well or someone around you's not feeling well, take a teaspoon or two a day until everything's all clear and go back to your maintenance dose. All right. The Turkish Prime Minister is now speaking. So we missed the
Yes, but I'd like to thank Mr. Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of the State of Qatar for his great hospitality despite he is very busy and occupied these days. He's a great friend of us, and for the sake of Qatar and for the sake of our region, the Prime Minister of Qatar and Foreign Minister of Qatar is a great asset. Is a great asset to the region and to Qatar at the same time. A lot of people know a lot of things, and I'd like to confirm that he is very important to the region and to his country. And I'd like to congratulate him personally for all his efforts. I remember during the mediation of Qatar, they have been attacked. And these attacks are ongoing now by Iran. And before everything, I'd like to say to my brothers in Qatar, the Turkish people wish you all the best. Our president wishes you all the best. And the attacks against the civilians and the energy locations cannot be accepted under any circumstances or any explanation. Turkey is also supporting the state of Qatar and will continue supporting the state of Qatar. This war is a threat to our brothers in the region in a direct way. And these aggressions are against peace and stability in the region. We were in Riyadh yesterday. We met in Riyadh, and the meeting was important, and we need that meeting and these meetings. We have confirmed during the meeting in Riyadh that we are supporting our brothers in the countries that have been attacked by Iran. We also confirmed the necessity of stopping these attacks, reaching a ceasefire, sorting out the problem within diplomacy and within diplomatic procedures. We need to achieve that. And here, I'd like to say that the main reason behind that war that is dragging our country to an unprecedented stage is Israel. The attacks happen while we are having diplomatic meetings. This is because of Israel, and we need not our region to be a place for conflict. We need not our region to be a place that disturbs the global security and peace. Whatsoever are the claims, the attacks of Iran against the region's countries are against the stability of the region and against the peace of the region, and we cannot accept that. These attacks are completely wrong. And the attacks...
I think it's really important to pay attention to some of the historians about World War I. And many of them were saying that we tiptoed into World War I by accident. It was just a progression of just international failures to the point where there was major conflict. All right, it wasn't, the story in the history books is, there was the assassination and then the world, just was set on fire and everyone was fighting each other. No, that's not how World War I started. All right, it was a series of things that were happening, and it goes all the way back to years before the assassination, where you had debt that was starting to accumulate, especially for Britain. So there were stresses that were starting to build up. All right. And you had alliances that were on paper. And there was a tiptoe into World War I. And we kind of accidentally fell into it, and it was just total carnage. I'm concerned that we're seeing the same kind of thing happening in the Middle East. It's different. I mean, different technologies, different people, different region. But major superpowers, major powers on the international stage are in debt. There is this hunger for energy, and there seems to be a tiptoeing and escalation that's starting to evolve. And this is not a Gulf War III, type situation. This is becoming more regional. And I suspect that historians will look back on this and say, World War III started actually in 2022 with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Now, some historians could say that World War I never ended, or that maybe even the Roman Empire never ended, and then just it became dormant, and then it sprouted back up. So, but for us to talk about history, we have to delineate it, right? We have to categorize it. And so let's just categorize it. I think that World War III started in 2022. And we are just seeing the tiptoes, and there's an escalation of this. This is related to Ukraine. We need the Hornets that the Ukrainians are making. It's crazy that America can't make Hornets. It's amazing. But the energy sector is helping Putin now. So these are all connected. Plus, the Strait of Hormuz being clogged up affects China. So everyone is interconnected with all this. So it could easily tiptoe into a much more bloody conflict, very similar to World War I.
Minister, what is the role that Turkey can play in order to stop these attacks and not to see these attacks again against Qatar and the neighboring countries through the dialogue or contacts with Iran? What is the joint effort between Turkey and Qatar in this regard? You are doing mediation. What can you do in this connection? Regarding the space for diplomatic efforts, we always have a space, and as a state of Qatar, we believe that the most solution must be through diplomacy, and we need to work with some countries in the region, including Turkey, in order to stop the war and prevent the wars. And we have done that before the war in order to stop the war from the very beginning against Iran. But our efforts have been met by attacks from Iran. And as I said before, for us, the volume of the shock was massive because we were attacked as countries in the region since the start of the war. And this imposes a lot of questions for us as neighboring countries. A country that has good relations based on good neighborhood and based on good relations with our neighbors, and to work together to support peace and stability in the region. But these Iranian attacks, unfortunately, have done nothing except shaking stability and security in the region. The region's countries met yesterday and refused collectively the aggression and urged Iran to stop the aggressions and attacks. But diplomacy is always there, dialogue is always there, but this dialogue and effort must be based on respect the sovereignty of each country and not to launch attacks against each other. There must be also more work to rebuild this trust once again, because the trust has been lost now due to these Iranian attacks. We know at the end of the day that we are within a geographical area. We have neighborhood, we have history between the region and Iran, and we need not hatred to be spread all over the place. We want to live in peace with the Iranian people. We need peace, and we need to avoid all the repercussions and consequences of these decisions that are not wise at all, and that can drag the region, unfortunately, into a dilemma that it will be difficult to avoid. Those who are benefiting from the war are known to everyone. First of all, there is a war that has started with a choice of Israel. Then Iran had tries to be enemy to its neighbors. So those who are benefiting are everyone who seeks to shake the stability of the region.
All right, I'm going to go to BBC, but before I do, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. Get the collagen. This will help to remodel your joints. If you have, let's say, sports injury or you have arthritis of some sort, this will help to remodel the joint, block certain enzymes that erode the joint, reduce the pain. It's very high quality. What this does is it helps to recruit the collagen type 2, helps to recruit ACAN and glucosamine and chondroitin to help with the joint remodeling and cushioning. This will block certain enzymes like MMP3 and MMP13 to reduce the erosion of the joint and helps to block the pain by blocking EP4. So please go to my store, get the collagen, really important to help to remodel a sports injury or getting older and you're having joint pain. Boomer Boost. This is a dual purpose supplement that you should be taking to help slow down the aging process. This is going to boost up your energy levels, rev up your metabolism. You're going to be able to lose weight. You're going to be able to gain muscle. It's going to help with brain function. You're going to be sleeping better. You're going to be able to think better. Your memory is going to improve. Your cardiovascular health will improve. It's going to bring down inflammation. It's going to boost up the immune system, help with the endocrine system. You get many benefits by taking Boomer Boost. Take it every day. And heirloom barley. Heirloom barley helps to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals. That's super important to slow down the aging process. You're helping your immune system, you're helping your endocrine system, cardiovascular, and brain function. So please go to my store, get the heirloom barley, take it every day. This is a month's supply. And again, make sure you use discount 5. I want you to save some money. You know, oil's going up, so cost of goods and services are going to go up too. I want you to save some money. It's all caps, discount number 5.
University of Phoenix is built for real life. At some schools, to save money, you have to move fast and load up on courses. We keep it simple. Take one course at a time with fixed, affordable tuition. Get started at phoenix.edu.
Donald Trump has threatened to blow up the entirety of Iran's South Pars gas field if Tehran strikes Qatar's gas infrastructure again. In a post on Truth Social, the president said the US knew nothing about an Israeli strike on the South Pars gas field, the biggest natural gas field in the world, which then sparked attacks by Iran on Qatar's Ras Laffan facility, the world's largest gas hub. He said if Iran attacks that hub again, the US will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen before. But shortly before the post, Iranian state television reported that they had struck the Ras Laffan complex for a second time. Qatar Energy confirmed the facility sustained further significant damage. These here are pictures of the aftermath of the initial strikes. Huge fires could be seen from more than 30 kilometers away. Iran said it targeted the facility and others in the region in response to the Israeli strikes on its own facilities at the South Pars gas reservoir. Oil prices have leapt as a result, up 5%. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes analysed the president's Truth Social post.
It is quite a lengthy Truth Social post, and I think it's worth Sally going through some of it in detail, because I think it tells us quite a lot about the current mood of the president. He says Israel had violently lashed out at the South Pars gas field, which, as you said, is one of the world's largest natural gas fields. He says lashed out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East. The United States, he insists, knew nothing about it. He says Qatar wasn't involved either. And then he goes on, unfortunately, that Iran did not know this, and unjustifiably, he says, and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG, liquefied natural gas facility. This is a major facility. We know that it was extensively damaged. And then in capital letters, President Trump says no more attacks will be made by Israel related to the Iranian gas fields unless, and there is a caveat, he says, unless Tehran decides to strike Qatar again. And he says if that happens, and this is where the president uses his strongest language, he says the US wouldn't hesitate to launch a massive retaliatory attack, massively blow up, to use the president's words, the entire Iranian gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran, he says, has never seen or witnessed before. He then goes on to say he's reluctant to do this because he knows that there will be long-term implications for the future of Iran.
Well, let's go live to our business hub in Singapore and speak to our Asia business correspondent, Nick Marsh. Nick, just how sharp are these oil spikes that we're seeing at the moment?
Well, they're the sharpest that we've seen in quite a few days, Catherine. Just looking now, the price of a barrel of Brent crude, which is one of the benchmark measurements for oil, is at $113. Anything above 100, Catherine, is very, very high indeed. If you think that in quote-unquote normal circumstances, and that's all very relative, isn't it, a barrel of oil might be traded for about $70, $80, maybe even in the 60s. If there aren't any big disruptions to supply and demand, you can see how much it's gone up. And it's been above $100 for quite some time now. The reason is because of, firstly, the blockage in the Strait of Hormuz that we've been talking about so much. Iran effectively controls that narrow passageway. It's attacking ships. And if things can't get through, so millions of barrels of oil and gas, for example, then the supply is going to be constrained and prices are going to go up. But now, as we've just been hearing, there have been some pretty serious attacks on incredibly important gas fields, and even Donald Trump having to weigh in there to try and, he threatened, but almost de-escalate a little bit, saying that Israel won't do it again. When the infrastructure is hit and the passageways are hit, supply really takes a hit, and it's mostly here in Asia. Asia are the big customers for oil and gas that comes through the Strait of Hormuz. When the price of oil and gas is high, the price of everything becomes high, because then it affects transportation, it affects manufacturing, petrol, even plastics I was reading about in China today, for example. So $113 is very high indeed.
Nick, thank you. That's our correspondent, Nick Marsh, in Singapore there. But let's go live to Dubai and speak to our correspondents there, Azadeh Mashiri. Hello, Azadeh. Just tell us about the impact of these strikes, both by Israel and Iran, on these energy facilities. Well, Qatar, as well as the UAE and other countries, knew that they could be on the front line of Iran's fury, retaliatory attacks following the Israeli strikes at South Pars. And Qatar has seen its Safa energy facility targeted multiple times. Fires are now under control, according to Qatar. And here in the UAE, there was damage to some gas fields due to debris from intercepted attacks. And you can imagine that there's a lot of anger about these strikes and these Iranian attacks, so much so that following a meeting of foreign affairs ministers in the capital of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, there has been a joint statement that has been issued by a group of Arab nations and Islamic countries. So not only Qatar, UAE, and others that you might expect, but also countries like Pakistan, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan was part of that group as well. And they condemned these attacks by Iran, reserved their right to self-defense, and they've urged Iran to halt these attacks immediately. They've also asserted They've also shown support for Lebanon and have condemned what they call Israel's expansionist behavior in the region. Now, it's worth remembering that the reason these countries, particularly in the Gulf, are so taken aback isn't just that Iran is targeting them because of their ties with the United States. They feel like they've really been pulled into this war unjustly because of the fact that some of them, Oman, of course, in particular, have played mediating roles between Iran and the West in the past. And so the consequences of this in the long term are very significant. Multiple countries have said if Iran thought this was pushing these countries to urge the United States to end the war and end it now, they've miscalculated. But instead, Gulf countries are enraged, and they believe, and they've said, that that relationship with Iran, one that in some ways Iran has depended on amidst all these sanctions, amidst all these conflicts, that relationship has been damaged for decades to come. Azadeh, thank you for that.
Are you plus-sized and your mattress dips in the middle? Stop scrolling. Most beds can't handle bigger bodies, but Big Fig can. More support, durability.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. C60 is a very potent antioxidant. It's 1,000 times stronger than vitamin C. It's suspended in a lipid, in an oil. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, and extra virgin olive oil. You can get it in a 2-ounce, a 4-ounce, or an 8-ounce configuration. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the C60. Take a teaspoon a day, preferably on an empty stomach in the morning. But take it every day. If you take it before a workout, you'll recover quicker from your workout. Your energy levels will boost up. Your endocrine system and your immune system will improve. Your brain function will improve. And your cardiovascular health will improve. Why? At the vascular level, if you're soaking up free radicals, you're reducing plaque formation because you're reducing the concentration of oxidized LDL. Why does C60 help with your brain function? It helps to improve the health of the neurons. And when your neurons are healthier and they're firing properly, you're going to have better neuroplasticity, positive neuroplasticity, so you'll have more dendritic connections and you'll think faster and have better memory. Why does it improve your immune system and your endocrine system? Because by soaking up free radicals and bringing down inflammation and bringing down stress, your other systems, your endocrine system and your immune system will improve. So it's really important to take C60 every day. I've been taking C60, a teaspoon a day, every day since 2016. Every day. It's a cornerstone of slowing down the aging process. So please go to my store and get the C60. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to end the show today a little bit early. Thank you for listening. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, all caps, discount the number 5. You get $5 off any order. Thank you for listening. Please share the links. Ask your social media to follow me. You can follow me on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble, X, GETTR, Substack, Patreon, TikTok. There's many ways to follow me. Apple Podcasts, Podomatic, and on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.